pastoral soloist at Congregation Beth Shalom here in Bozeman. And I also have a project called the Shameless Shebrew, which is hopefully what you came here for tonight. With this project, I blog and present and sing about mental health and body acceptance, often through the lens of being a Jewish woman, and also about wrestling with the patriarchal traditions in Judaism and also in our society. So in the program tonight, you'll hear original songs, mostly original except for one, songs inspired by my personal experiences with these issues, and they'll be framed by Jewish values that we can look to address these issues. We'll also have a Q&A at the end, so if you have any questions, they will be addressed at the end. I just want to say that I'm so happy you're here, and I think it's a really big deal that you're here, and also if you're on YouTube that you're watching, because these things aren't easy to talk about. And the fact that you're willing to be here and confront them means a lot. And you know, maybe these issues are personal to you. Maybe you struggle with mental health or body image. Maybe you know someone who does, but either way, just know that you're not alone. And I also want to say that you're allowed to show emotion in this room. You're allowed to cry. You don't have to go hide in the bathroom, although of course you can if you want to. But I just wanted to say that I hope that you'll feel safe to express yourself. Mental health has kind of become this buzzword these days, right? Like, we know we should talk about it, we don't always know how, we don't always know what it looks like when somebody's struggling, and we can't always tell that somebody's struggling with their mental health. And oftentimes, you know, people who seem really happy and like they have it all together really don't, and are really suffering. So my hope is that by sharing my own experiences, you might also feel more comfortable sharing yours, and that the more openly we can talk about these things, the less stigmatized they'll become. I want to just say, or ask one little bit of business. So, it's very hard to sing with a mask. I get lightheaded when I try to do that. I took a COVID test right before I came here. I'm vaccinated, boosted, and I had Omicron in early January. So if it's okay with everybody, it would make it a lot easier to sing if I took off my mask. We also have 2 air purifiers going on in here. And then Megan, who's gonna sing with me a little bit too, also took a COVID test and is vaccinated, and if it's okay, she would also like to sing without her mask. And if anybody's uncomfortable with that, let us know. Thumbs up? Thank you. All right, so first, I am going to introduce 2 people who are going to kind of frame why we're here and why we're doing this, why are we even talking about this stuff. They are both representing partner organizations among the many partner organizations that have gratefully helped us out with the event tonight. And I'll go do a big list of them at the end. But first, I'm going to introduce Mandy St. Aubin from the Help Center.
Sorry. Sure. Thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Mandy St. Aubin. I'm with the Help Center, and my notes on my phone, not on Instagram or something. And so the Help Center, we're a local nonprofit here in Bozeman with a 24-hour crisis, suicide, and resource line. We've been around for 50 years. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2021. So we have a local number, 586-3333. We also answer 211, which is a number you can call for information about community resources. And then we also answer the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline for 13 counties in southwest Montana, so the 1-800-273-TALK, about to be 988 this year. And we're here for you, and also anyone that you're worried about. So what Amber was talking about, that if you are concerned about someone in your life, you can also call us and get guidance or help with that as well. And if you're a student on campus, you know about counseling and psychological services, so you're super fortunate to have a mental health resource right here on campus. me to share just some mental health statistics. I just have two. So according to the National Institute of Mental Health, in 2020, there was an estimated 52.9 million adults in the U.S. living with a mental illness. So that's about 21% of the adult population. So although that's important to know, that also represents you, your neighbors, your friends, and your family members. And in Montana, we've been in the top 5 states with the highest suicide rates for over the past 30 years. But please know that there's help available. So calling us is a good first step. We can connect you to local mental health resources or wherever you are. And if, like Amber was saying, that talking about these things is really difficult, I'm a trained crisis counselor, so I will stick around at the end. There's a table in the back, and you're welcome to come talk to me if you need to process at the end as well. So thanks for having us, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Mandy. All right, next I'm going to introduce Amy Johnson from the Eating Disorder Center of Montana.
Yay. Hi everyone, I'm Amy from the Eating Disorder Center of Montana. We are located here in Bozeman. We've been here since 2013. We offer the highest level of specified eating disorder treatment in the state of Montana. We practice a holistic, evidence-based treatment style in a warm and welcoming historic home in downtown Bozeman. And we do this because we know that eating disorders affect people of all ages, genders, body sizes, backgrounds, and abilities. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the National Eating Disorder Association has seen a 59% increase in calls to their helpline, and we've certainly seen an increase in our community as well. The increased isolation and anxiety that we've seen since the pandemic began have had an effect on all of our mental health, and we know that it's so important to talk about and normalize struggles with food, body, exercise, and mental health. At ECMT, our approach blends therapy, art, yoga, shared experiences, and laughter to help patients who find wholehearted living. We know that eating disorders thrive in secrecy and darkness, and that they have a way of tricking people into thinking that they don't deserve or need treatment. And we truly believe in the power of sharing our stories and bringing our thoughts and feelings into the light as a form of healing. And that's why we're so excited to be here tonight. And we're also passionate about bringing these conversations into the light so that everyone feels comfortable in our community. This is why we started the Everybody Belongs in Bozeman initiative last year. Everybody Belongs is a week-long event and fundraiser that brings attention to the importance of having a body-inclusive community. This year, for the second annual event in May, we are partnering with local businesses to bring a mix of virtual and in-person events where everyone can feel comfortable being themselves. All proceeds will be split between Suffer Out Loud and Project Heal, which is a national nonprofit that helps people seeking eating disorder treatment with financial support and education. And so you can follow us on social media or subscribe to our newsletter. I have links in the back on the table to link to all of those things to learn more and to receive updates about Everybody Belongs in Bozeman. And if you're interested in partnering with us to put on an event or to donate to our silent auction for the event, I would love to chat with you. So thank you so much for having us here tonight. I look forward to continuing the conversation about bodies, food, and mental health.
Thank you so much, Amy. Growing up, I was always a really sensitive person. I would write poetry in math class. And I wrote love letters to the boy I had a crush on in 7th grade. He flushed them down the toilet. In retrospect, this might have been a little too much for a 12-year-old boy to handle. But still, I got the message that I was too much. And, you know, this is something that I've kind of dealt with my whole life. I'm still really sensitive and a very emotional person, which, you know, sometimes feels like it isn't fully accepted in our society. We're supposed to go cry in the bathroom. When someone asks us how we are, we say, fine or good, even if we don't mean that. We see highlight reels and filtered lives on social media, and we often are really uncomfortable with sadness and grief, and we try to fix it and make it better instead of just letting it be there, letting it be part of the human experience. How many of you have heard the word shalom? Okay. So, does anyone know what it means? Does anyone want to share what it means?
Peace.
Peace. It does mean peace. And it's used as a greeting, like when you say hello or goodbye to somebody. So when you're saying hello or goodbye, you're really wishing somebody peace. The word shalom actually has the same Hebrew root letters as the word shlemut, which means wholeness. So when you're greeting somebody, you're not only wishing them peace, you're also wishing them the ability to be their full self. Because wholeness isn't just the good stuff, it's every piece of us.
Say you'll stay when I'm laughing. Say you'll stay when I'm cracking. Sometimes it sounds the same. Please don't be afraid. Hold me when I'm broken. I've never been more open for you to see it all that makes me whole. Say you'll paddle the ocean, even in rapid motion. The waves always come back down. Say you'll stick around. Hold me when I'm broken. I've never been more open for you to see it all that makes me whole. And pieces that complete me are light and some are heavy. Magic and the mess, all that makes me whole. Can you love all of me, which you don't want to see? 'Cause we don't know how good the light is if it never goes out. Hold me when I'm broken. I've never been more open for you to see it all that makes me. Hold me when I'm broken. I've never been more open for you to see it all that makes me whole. The pieces that complete me are light and some are heavy. The magic and the mess, and you can see it all that makes me whole.
So that boy who flushed my love letters down the toilet in 7th grade also told people that I looked like a Who from Whoville. But that actually ended up working out to my advantage because I got cast as a Who from Whoville in Seussical the Musical in high school. So, but I think what he was trying to say was something insulting about my nose. I was really insecure about my nose. You know, there's a stereotype about Jewish people and noses, and I was really insecure about it for a long time. I would look in the mirror and kind of try to convince myself it wasn't so bad. I would hide my profile because it's a little more prominent from that angle. And somehow this came up at the orthodontist one day when I was about 12 or so. And the orthodontist said to me, "Oh, you know what? The problem isn't your nose, it's your chin. God just didn't give you a chin, sweetie. You know, I'm sure God gave you something else like brains, but you just have a very weak chin. But I could refer you to a plastic surgeon to get a chin implant." I did not get a chin implant, and I did not do anything to my nose, but what a way to instill an insecurity in a young girl and to try to make money off of that. I learned that my nose took up too much space, and I eventually learned that my body took up too much space too, according to patriarchal and Eurocentric beauty standards. The patriarchal traditions in Judaism didn't help. I learned from an ultra-Orthodox, very observant Jewish community that I attended in college that Jewish women were not allowed to sing in front of men, and they weren't allowed to read from the Torah publicly or become clergy. And I also learned about the modesty laws, the way that women were supposed to dress and cover their bodies. And all of this just contributed to this feeling like I had to shrink and stay quiet. So after college, I went to Jerusalem for 6 months, and I wanted to just figure it all out. I wanted to know exactly what I believed. I wanted to look at the texts, the source of all the rules, and decide for myself what I believed and how I wanted to live my life. But as you can imagine, I got more confused. I was diagnosed with clinical depression in my freshman year of college, and that followed me to Israel, and it got really, really bad. I felt really out of control of my life. I mean, I was thousands of miles from home in a totally different country, and the only place that I was getting comfort was from food. Now, getting comfort from food isn't this terrible thing that we're taught it is. If you think about it, we eat for reasons other than just physical sustenance and nourishment. We're supposed to get pleasure from food. That's what keeps us eating and keeps us alive. But we're taught to fear food from diet culture. And I felt really ashamed that I was eating for comfort. I also didn't really have any other coping mechanisms at the time, and I wasn't really getting pleasure anywhere else. So I started trying to control my food and my weight because I just wanted to feel in control of something. And when I got back to the States, I spiraled downward into a full-blown eating disorder. I went to outpatient treatment in Florida, where I was living, and I got better, but only partially better, because there was this missing piece in my recovery. And that missing piece was body acceptance, like truly accepting my body for whatever it ended up looking like when I was taking care of it properly. I also realized, I discovered the body positive movement and the fat acceptance movement, which is reclaiming the word fat as a neutral adjective, like tall or short. And I learned about the fat phobia in our society. If you think about the way our society is set up, cars, airplanes, seatbelts, hospital beds, hospital gowns, it's a lot easier for for thinner people to find clothing, and even chairs can be really difficult. These things make it difficult to move through the world in a larger body. And I realized that fat phobia hurts everybody. It certainly hurts people in larger bodies because people in larger bodies are stigmatized and discriminated against in a lot of ways. I learned about my thin privilege, that it's a lot easier for me to move through the world and I don't have to think about these things. A lot of the things that folks in larger bodies have to think about. And I realized that fat phobia was hurting me because I was so afraid of becoming any bigger than I was, because I didn't want to have to live a life of feeling stigmatized. I was participating in my own oppression by spending so much time and energy trying to stay thin and make myself thinner, and it was never enough. It took over my life. And people who go to inpatient treatment for an eating disorder, you have to totally put your life on pause. And so when that happens, and even when we are preoccupied with food, even when we are, even if it's not a full-blown eating disorder, but disordered eating behaviors, it takes up a lot of space to the point where we can't live up to our full power and our full potential. And this is a form of oppression when we are taught that we are supposed to look and think and move a certain way in the world. And sometimes we go to great lengths to feel loved and accepted. We really can't focus on anything else. We're really distracted. So the answer isn't to shrink ourselves at the expense of our mental health and even our physical health, because there are studies that show that weight stigma is worse for your health than living at a higher weight. The answer is to make more room and to expand, because bigger chairs can be made, and there can be a lot more diversity in mainstream media. We're getting there, but we still have a long way to go. Judaism teaches that every being is created in the image of the divine, B'Tselem Elohim. And therefore, none of these expressions can possibly be wrong.
How could I try to erase the curves and the lines my grandmothers gave me? I'm trying to fully embrace the way my hips resemble the landscape, rocky mountains curving up and down with wisdom so profound. We don't question their validity, created perfectly. Perhaps it's the same for me. Bursting with fullness of life, dotted with trees, wild and uneven, shadows show up on their sides, stretched across to mark the divides, rocky mountains curving up and down with wisdom so profound. We don't question
take care of one another and ourselves. And I don't just mean taking care of our bodies. We're taught this very narrow definition of health. Eat vegetables and do cardio, right? But health is so much more. Mental health is health, and often affects our physical health. Other ways to maintain health are, rest. Rest is not something we're often taught in this society as a way to maintain our health. Does anyone have any other ideas of what does health mean? What are some other health promoting behaviors that don't have to do with weight or body size? Because we're also taught that being thin equals healthy, which is not true.
Or connection with other people.
Connection with other people, absolutely. Oh, that's a huge one, thank you. Spiritual health, absolutely.
I would think of just being vulnerable enough to allow the connection that you feel with people to be meaningful, so that you can put yourself out there in a way that it feels like that you allow other people to care for you.
Yeah, allowing other people to care for you, being able to be vulnerable and ask for help. I would argue that eating cookies is healthy. Because, for sure. Yes, thank you. For me anyway, in my own journey, eating cookies has been a huge healing experience, allowing myself and not depriving myself. It really just works out a lot better in the end for me. Also, I wanted to say that not everyone is required to pursue health. Health doesn't equal worth. And also not everyone is able to pursue health in the same way. So Judaism teaches that we are responsible for one another. And what they really mean showing up. It's not just a nice thing to do, it's an obligation. So you show up when somebody's sick, you show up when somebody is grieving, and you sit with them. The Shiva, the 7 days after a funeral in Jewish tradition, you just go and you sit, and you don't have to talk, but you be a presence. Sometimes it's hard to know how to show up for someone who struggles with mental health. A few things that I try to do or that have worked for me when I need help is I just, checking in is a really big one. Just checking in is just to say you're thinking about somebody, letting somebody know that they mean a lot to you, and even offering something specific, like, hey, I'm gonna be in the neighborhood, would you like me to come by and just sit with you for a while? We don't have to talk or anything. Or, hey, I'm gonna be at the grocery store, can I pick something up for you so that it makes things easier for you, you don't have to cook during the week and stuff like that. Does anyone else have something to share about how somebody has shown up for them or how you've shown up for someone else that has felt well received? I know I'm putting everyone on the spot, so it's okay. Yeah.
I have a friend who sends cards kind of just randomly, not for any reason, but just when I'm never expecting it, they'll just show up in the mail, and it's quite a treat because it's her way of checking in.
That's lovely. Yeah, just random cards in the mail. Yeah. Thank you for participating. I can see you trembling in the dark. Something's got you struggling to heal your wounded heart. Years of being beaten down in shame.
I think she's, yeah. Oh, okay.
I want to give a little disclaimer about this one. This next song I wrote when I was struggling with suicidal ideation. I want to remind you that it's okay to show emotion in the room, and also if you need to step out, that's okay too. And also remember that Mandy is here if you do need to talk. So there's a Jewish value called noseh ba'ol im chavero, which means sharing one's burden with a friend. I really would love to live in a world where we can all share openly without shame, of course respecting boundaries and sharing with those who are able to hold the space for us and to receive. But so many of us are just struggling silently. And we often feel like we're alone. I have often felt like I'm alone or that there's something wrong with me. And I think that the stigma of it makes it all worse. And I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or what's wrong with me. There's another Jewish value I want to talk about here called pikuach nefesh, saving a life. What if you could save a life by checking in on someone and listening or giving a hug? What if you could save your own life by sharing your truth and your pain?
It is evening, still the sun burning high. Water grabs my feet as I'm running by, and it holds all of me.
kind of, that's kind of what we're doing here. But there will be some more uplifting ones too. It's okay to feel. Yes, it's okay to feel, right?
Girl, stop apologizing.
Thank you, right. And I guess I sort of ended up doing it anyway, by way of saying I was going to, but anyway, I didn't technically. Okay.
You jerked a few tears out of me with that.
Aw. Well, so I'm not the only one who has struggled with depression and anxiety in my family. My mom suffered from severe depression and also from anxiety. She died 4 years ago this month, and my family and I don't know exactly how she died. It was unexpected, and she died in the middle of the night. And my family and I don't think that she died by suicide, based on what we knew about her and based on the lack of physical evidence that we could find to lead to that. But I think the best explanation we've been able to come up with is that in a way she died from her depression because it led to her not being able to take care of herself to the point where we think her body just gave out. So sometimes we don't know how to help. And I just also want to acknowledge that it can be really hard to be a caregiver for somebody who struggles with these things. My mom's mental health affected me and our relationship, but she was a really good mom. She did her best considering what she was up against. So I wrote the song as I was processing her death and our relationship. I've been thinking about family and what that really means. How I always imagined it's supposed to be. Sometimes love doesn't come in a box tied with a bow.
You slipped away so gently in the night, with so much unanswered. I will never know why. Did I make you proud? Though I took the winding road. I wish that you could see how far I've come. I don't know where you are, but there's no wall between us now. Forgive me for all I haven't done. 'Cause in the end, nothing's left but love. In the end, nothing's left but love.
I want to take this moment to play. This is the song that I didn't write. The music was composed by Debbie Friedman, and it's a Jewish prayer for healing. And at Beth Shalom, we often say this prayer in our services. And I want to take this moment to say it especially for people who are struggling with their mental health and with eating disorders. So the custom we do is to share names at Beth Shalom. I invite you to share a name out loud if you'd like, and if not, then to just keep it in your heart. And I also invite you to say your own name. Sometimes we have a hard time asking for our own healing, but I invite you to try it out.
Linda.
Allie. Jaden. Cassidy. Emily. Amy.
Mi Shebrew Avotenu Mekor Abraham Leimutenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi Sheberach Imotenu Mekor Abraham Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
A lot of the times, the individual gets blamed for their struggles. There are also a lot of external factors that contribute to our ability or our inability to function at our best. Systematic oppression is a really big one. We can love ourselves all we want, but when we go out into the world and we are made fun of or excluded, or we don't fit into the standards, whether that's mentally or physically, it can really beat us down. And then often we try to change ourselves just to be able to function in society, whether that's pretending we're happy when we're not, or trying to learn the same way as other people learn when that just doesn't work for us. This idea that a certain type of brain or body is right or acceptable often stems from a society that cares more about productivity and wealth and status than actual well-being. There's a quote by Caroline Caldwell, and she says, "In a society that profits from your self-doubt, liking yourself is a rebellious act." So self-love is really important. The individual work is very important. And it's important that we make society a place where everyone feels accepted. There's a famous line in the Torah, "Tzedek, tzedek tirdof," justice, justice you shall pursue. And Judaism, along with many other religions, calls for advocating for the most vulnerable in our society. And body liberation is very much a social justice issue, as well as an intersectional issue. There's a book called "Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia" by Dr. Sabrina Strings. And here's a quote from the book. "The current anti-fat bias in the United States and in much of the West was not born in the medical field. Racial scientific literature since at least the 18th century has claimed that fatness was, quote, savage and, quote, black, end quote. So when we reject diet culture, we also reject its racist ideologies. How do we do that? It's complicated. I have a few suggestions. We can refrain from jokes or call out jokes about marginalized people. We can practice being weight neutral, which can include maybe being sensitive to, the way that you talk about bodies and weight and food around others. Maybe that means, refraining from talking about calories and making up for eating a certain thing or a certain amount. And if you're somebody who struggles with eating disorders or disordered eating behaviors or body image, you can set a boundary with folks who are talking about these things. And you're allowed to say, or you're allowed to ask that these things just not be talked about that way around you, because it really might trigger you. Saying "I feel fat" fat is not a feeling, and that can be damaging to people in larger bodies, because it's almost like saying, "I don't want to look like you." We can compliment things other than bodies and weight loss. Weight loss is not always a good thing. And we can advocate for people in larger bodies, and disabled bodies, and gender non-conforming people, and neurodivergent people whose brains work in a different way than what we're told is normal. We can challenge the idea of normal. And I think the number one thing we can do is to just simply disagree with the systems that tell us we're wrong and be who we are anyway. Let our bodies be whatever size they want to be, and I know it's easier said than done. We can affirm that all bodies are worthy of respect, no matter what. Another thing that has helped me a lot is to diversify my media feed. In the back table, I have a resource list with a bunch of Instagram accounts and blogs and podcasts that have really helped me in my healing, and you're welcome to take one and fill up your feed with diverse bodies so that you're kind of reconditioning yourself. We've been taught and we've seen a certain type of body in the media for so long, and it really has such a deep effect on us. So if we can try to retrain our brains, that it does really help, speaking from experience. So this is a song about challenging the systems and standards that try to box us in.
silence to keep us sedated and small. Our outrage is outlawed, but our love for ourselves will free us and shatter the lies. We're gonna grow bigger, louder and stronger. Together we march, standing tall. Sister, don't whisper, get it out there. We're demanding the liberty and justice for all. I am more than a body for show on a screen. I am here with a story to tell. I don't wanna be looked at, I wanna be seen. I'm human, I'm not here to please. I am more than a figure plastered on the wall. I am here to reclaim my voice, and I don't want your power. It's enough for us all. I'm human, and I make my choice. We are more than just bodies for show on a screen. We are here with a story to tell. We don't wanna be looked at, we wanna be seen. Do you hear us now? Do you hear us now? Do you hear us now?
So
How many of you
good.
have heard the, oh, thank
So good.
thank you. How many of you have heard the word Kabbalah? Or Kabbalah? Okay. Yeah. So you might know it as like Jewish mysticism. It comes from the word Kabbalut, which means to receive or to accept, or acceptance. And this is something that is really hard for me. Self-acceptance, I work on it all the time. I overthink. Do we have any overthinkers here? Yeah. And, you know, I think that sometimes the parts of ourselves that we think are bad or we're taught aren't allowed, maybe aren't that bad. Like, for example, anger. You know, a lot of the times we're taught that we're not allowed to be angry. But I would invite you to kind of look at some of these things that you might not like about yourself and ask yourself, is this just something that I've been taught isn't acceptable, maybe for my gender or my, you know, my religion maybe. Yeah, this is called enough. Sometimes I'm difficult, sometimes I'm selfish. Am I still worthy of love? Sometimes I'm volatile, sometimes I'm ugly. Am I still worthy of love? I am human, maybe a little too much. I'm not perfect. Am I enough? Sometimes I'm too sensitive. I can be intense. Do I deserve happiness? I've heard people
worthy of love. I'm allowed to get angry and not apologize, and I am still worthy of love. I am human, maybe a little too much. I'm not perfect. Am I enough? I am enough.
I have one more song, but first I want to give a huge thank you to Megan and to Amy for playing tonight and singing tonight, and it's just such a pleasure to have you two, so thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to shout out all of our sponsors, so and maybe we'll save our applause to the end because gratefully we have a lot of them. So Congregation Beth Shalom and the MSU Jewish Student Association kind of put this together. I want to give a huge thank you to Marnie Manning, who's the president of the Jewish Student Association, for all of her work helping to put this together, and also to Barbara De Amaral, who from the DISC, the Diversity and Inclusion Student Commons. Thank you so much for all of the work you've both done to help put this together. I also want to shout out to Betsy Danforth from the Women's Center. I don't know if she's here tonight, but she helped a lot too with promotion from the MSU Women's Center. The Help Center, and Mandy, again, thank you. The Eating Disorders Center of Montana and their initiative, Everybody Belongs in Bozeman, and thank you, Amy, again, for coming tonight. And also Suffer Out Loud is a partner organization. So let's give them all a round of applause. I hope you'll follow all of them on social media. I did include their handles on my resource sheet back there. And thank you to Daniel and Justin for helping with the live stream tonight. Yay! And I want to shout out to Rabbi Sonia at Beth Shalom, who was really instrumental in helping to put this together too. So if you're watching, hi! And thanks all you YouTube viewers for tuning in, if that's what we still say. I also just want to end by saying that I hope that this has inspired you in some way to be more of your authentic self, to express yourself more fully, and to help create a world where we can all do that, because I really think that kind of world it sounds really beautiful, and I'd love to see more of that in our world, and I hope we can move towards that. I think that the more authentically we can all be ourselves, the more it will inspire others. At least that's what I hope. And a reminder that there's stuff in the back to check out. There's some like pamphlets and stuff from our partner organizations. There's my resource sheet, and then I have some music. I don't know if anyone listens to CDs anymore, but I have CDs. I also have download cards, and you can also stream my music. A lot of the songs that I sing tonight are on all the platforms, and some of them are not yet released, but will be released this year, hopefully. So if you follow me, you'll get notified when they'll be released. And there's a QR code for Spotify back there if you want. Otherwise, you can find me, Amber Eichmann, on whatever platform you use for music. So this is a song about koach and gevura, strength and resilience and overcoming. And it was inspired by a quote by Rumi that I came across several years ago, and the quote is, "You have seen my descent, now watch my rising."
I open up my eyes, my weary heart is healing. You have seen my descent, now watch me rise. I stand alone and taller, without your shadow's weight. Cracks have made me stronger, for that which can bend will not break. The wheel will keep on spinning until you break a spoke. From turbulence to resting, I let you go, and then I woke. I'm starting to see that I was not to blame. There was nothing I could do to make you change. Hear me now, I'm ready to let the truth take wing and finally end the silence. You took my voice, now hear me say, and I will not fall back now. I hold my head up high. I shed my shame for courage. You have seen my descent, now watch me rise. You have seen my descent, now watch me rise. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? No pressure.
You're awesome, Amber.
Thank you.
How long have you been writing your own stuff, Amber?
How long have I been writing my own stuff? I think I started when I was like 12. I guess that was a very fruitful time for me. Like, yeah, maybe out of like the struggle of all the weird stuff that was happening in middle school, I found, a way to express it, so.
That's great. Good for you.
Thanks. Does anyone have questions for Mandy from the Help Center or from Amy from the Eating Disorder Center? Cool. Okay. Oh, yes, Barbara.
Amber, as you share your story,
That's a great question. The question was, as I share my story and these things that have been hidden, do I find myself gaining strength from doing that and healing? Wow, I sort of have just started doing it. I put out my blog in December, and I wrote about, I kind of gave my story on my About page, and I have several blog posts that, talk a little bit about what I've gone through. And that was really scary, but there was nobody looking at me. So now this is my first concert doing this kind of concert. And it's super scary because, like Amy said, eating disorders can be so just private, and for me it was so shameful and private for so long. I didn't talk about it really with very many people. And I guess that I have found healing in sharing it, because now I feel, I think I had to get to a place in my own journey where I felt strong enough to share it. And it's still really hard, and it's still very vulnerable, and I have no idea what you're all thinking right now. But I'm hoping that I really want to find solidarity and build community around this stuff. I want to be able to talk about it more, and I want people to know that even if they're struggling with it really privately, like I was, that one day, hopefully they will also get to a point where they can talk about it openly too, and even if it's just in a one-on-one situation, which can still be really hard. But yeah, I guess I'm not totally sure yet if it's, I'm really hoping, I'm taking the chance and the risk of putting it out there in hopes that I will heal more. And it actually does, I guess I'm kind of thinking out loud, but I guess it does sort of feel liberating to just say these things, the things that have just been hidden for so long, just to give voice to them. It does feel liberating. It feels like it doesn't own me. It doesn't have power over me. So I think that's my sort of jumbled answer.
Thank you. I know it's difficult, and from my eyes,
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Does anyone else want to add or share, ask? Yeah.
I'm just gonna add on to maybe this question with kind of another healing question. Because when I was listening to you answer, the thought that kept coming to me was kind of, I am still healing, and I hope I always continue to heal, so isn't it okay to continue healing every day and always? And I hope I never stop, and I hope that the question does this bring you healing? Yeah. I can't answer for you, but what you just gave to me brought me a sense of healing. And so but I just think that we're always gonna need healing from life, from something.
Yes, on a destination.
Right, yeah. So I don't know. So just thank you, and that's my thought and my feeling.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I guess that hadn't even occurred to me that, just for everybody, in case you didn't hear very well, that healing is a journey and it's continuous, and I think I'm paraphrasing, but I am still healing, and yes, this is part of my healing. It's not a destination. That was really, thank you for saying that. That definitely feels really powerful to me. And also that it's okay, you don't have to be totally 100% fine and fixed and all better to be able to share and be vulnerable. And I think that makes it really hard, to say like, oh yes, I do still struggle. But I think that that's, that's kind of part of it, right? Like, you don't have to be, like people are like, oh, you gotta like kind of have all your stuff figured out before you like get into a relationship. But we're always figuring out our stuff, like through our whole lives. Like we're always evolving and working on things. So yeah, like if I was gonna wait till like some magical elusive point where I was like totally 100% fine, like that would just probably never happen. So yeah, I think at some point you gotta just take the risk and and be vulnerable. And it's even harder to be vulnerable when you're not all better, which I think is why it took me so long to talk about. But I hope that if you are on a journey of healing in any way, I hope that you might consider starting to talk about it maybe before you think you're totally recovered. Because really, really, I mean, that I think is where most of us are at. Like, I think that I have a sense that if I was talking to a room full of people who are totally like, nobody has it all figured out. Like, I personally can't really relate to that. Like, what do you mean, like, everything's fine? Like, so, anyway. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.